guest has been in the film industry most of his life. He has acted alongside film giants like Steven Spielberg, Robin Williams, Mickey Rooney, and that's just to name a few. He's voice acted some of your favorite shows like Avatar The Last Airbender, American Dragon Jake Long, and has been crazy enough to throw fire at me through a Chicago land Barnes & Noble. Please welcome the very awesome Dante Basco. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I think it only figures to talk about your most popular character. We all know you played him when you were very young. Begins with an R, ends in an O. Let's get to it. When you played Romeo in Michael Jackson's
Yeah,
Moonwalker,
exactly. Awesome.
Everyone knew you were going to be huge. It was just going to be this huge part, so memorable that most people don't even remember the name of that character. But on IMDb, even though everyone just thought you were a dancer, you officially have a name in Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, and it's Romeo. Tell us about how that part just laid way for this incredible...
Awesome. Yeah, no, nothing. Yeah, I'm actually just a dancer in that video. I don't know.
You are more than a dancer.
I am.
You are Romeo.
Exactly.
It says so much about you.
I don't know how IMDb works, but certain things get on there that have the incorrectness, but you can never get them off either.
But it has defined a generation. Despite you think you were just a dancer, we all see you as Romeo. So
Thank you.
whatever. It certainly left a big impact on my life and many others.
Well, I'm glad.
With that said, you got into acting very, very young. You started acting when you were, what, 10 years old, I believe?
10, yes.
Yeah, was it easy to sort of warm up to the Hollywood scene? Because, I mean, you went right into movies, music videos, and stuff.
Yeah,
or did it take a little adjustment?
I'm originally from, me and my family are from the Bay Area, a little town outside of San Francisco, and we were breakdancers in the 80s. So before we got to LA, we were dancing, so literally we were dancing every weekend. My mom did our stats one time before we got to LA. We won 34 breakdancing contests.
Wow.
We got picked up by the San Francisco Ballet Company, did the Nutcracker. We danced for...
Wait. Breakdancing Nutcracker?
Oh, no, it was actually... They in the 80s, they were short on boys, so they had to find dancers to become ballet dancers. So it was really Billy Elliot. That film is like really emotional to me because it really reminds me of my life story.
If Billy Elliot was about breakdancing and ballet, that would be unbelievable.
Right, so like they got breakdancers from the streets and they gave us scholarships to learn ballet.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we did that. Me and my brothers did that, and then we were dancers for the 49ers, for the Oakland A's, for the USFL team at the time, the Oakland Invaders, and we did all that before we got to LA when I was the age of 10. So by the time we got to LA, we've already, had all that kind of experience going on.
So you were used to working with someone saying, go here, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Just salute, say yes, sir.
I guess we were like professional dancers before we got to LA, become professional actors, kind of thing.
Now, what made you want to transfer into acting then, from dancing?
It seemed, we didn't know we were going to. It's like we came to LA as dancers. But when you get to LA, you quickly realize it's an actor's world. As far as it's a filmmaking, it's movies and television, and so we briskly got into acting. I think our first dance agent was like, "Well, you should go out and auditions for film and television and commercials." Also, we're like, "Okay," and just saying that, my mother got us to an acting class, and I think I booked my first audition, so it just kind of went from there.
Viral from there. Going off of the first question there, what is it like being the lost boy everyone can agree on? Because everybody loves Rufio.
Yeah, Rufio.
Nobody dislikes Rufio. It's amazing.
Yeah, Rufio, it's one of those characters. I don't have words. It's like one of those weird things. It's like everyone comes to Hollywood to hopefully do some kind of character sometime that you'll be remembered for. That kind of thing. And for a generation that grew up in the 90s, when Rufio was there, and it just was an impactful character for a lot of people. So, and for me too. I mean, if I didn't play the character, I'd still be a fan of the character because he was just cool. Very cool, kind of anti-hero. He gets killed. Just kind of been, I just feel kind of fortunate to be. That's part of my resume.
Something you were talking about, I never noticed. Is that you were saying Rufio was very much a child of the 80s, and a lot of people had criticisms of that, but you pointed out that was part of Spielberg's plan because all the kids were from different time periods over time. Like some were from the 50s, some were from the 60s, and so on and so forth. So did they have mascara in Neverland? Did he bring that from the 80s?
Idea.
How did that work?
I have no idea. It's like the whole thing. It's like it's cool now. Like you look at Rufio, it's cool now. But when we first booked the role, there was no image for what it's gonna be. There's so many sketchings that they had. There was a sketching of me with dreadlocks. I mean, there was a part of Bangarang is like a Jamaican word, so there was an original idea for me to be like very Jamaican-ish. And then,
you play so many different cultures and stuff. You haven't actually done Jamaican yet.
I haven't done Jamaican yet. But then, when we did that particular outfit, and Steven Spielberg was like, "Yes, that's the look." And when you're young, you're like, "This is really the look. This is it. I'm wearing a Michael Jackson jacket and a midriff shirt. Like, wow, this is not how I'm gonna be in this big movie." Now looking back, you're like, it's cool. And then of course, the whole thing with the mascara when he's going to the fight scene, like, I don't know if it's the makeup or Steven. They're like, let's try this, and you're a kid on the set going, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna wear these weird makeup, and then it becomes like classic for the time. So.
It's definitely very iconic. There's only one Rufio.
Yeah.
And only one look. Everybody got it. He apparently never changes his clothes. So I don't know how he smells.
Doesn't
but still.
change his clothes.
Like he has to get up every morning and do the mousse in the hair. So
which is crazy because every Halloween you always get pictures of cosplayers, people getting dressed up as Rufio, and then with Twitter now and Tumblr, people write you that named their animals Rufio and their sons Rufio. Which is crazy.
Wow.
And it's cool. You're like, that's a cool name. I'm glad that you named your child after my character. Great.
Would they call him Roof for short? Roofy?
I don't know.
Roofy. Roofy. Come here, Roofy. Come on.
And then
he's not going to get many dates.
No. And then I recently wrote a blog, actually like last week, about how you're part of pop culture is when people start tattooing you on their body.
Really?
So there's a lot of Rufio tattoos. So my 15-year-old face adorns the body of several guys and girls, just, and it's kind of flattering. It's like, it's one of those things like, how do you feel about that? It's like, I get it. I mean, I get it. It means something to you. It means something to the whole generation. So if people know who it is, they totally understand what you're about. You're like a lost boy, lost girl. I get it. Like Bangarang is a very, it's a whole thing. So it's just interesting when it's your 15-year-old face on someone else's arm or leg or back or something.
Is there any truth that Steven Spielberg is so nice as a director that you immediately want to go punch someone just to sort of offset it?
He is nice, but he's very nice, but he's also, my memory of him, he's a very strong director. Especially with kids, he was very, he will get the moments he wants to get, somehow, With me and him, he would always, it's so ironic, it's like so funny, because like, he would always stop me, because I was always a young actor, and I guess I was imitating my heroes, right? So Marlon Brando is one of them, and he'd always be like, "Cut, stop imitating Brando, go back, and, do it again," which is hilarious, but he definitely, as nice as he was as a person and lovely, he was also very, not hard on the actors, but he was very stern about getting the performance he wanted to get, especially from a lot of the kid actors. So my memory was he's very strong director.
Well, you have to be. I mean, just looking at that set,
yeah,
any of those sets. I mean, it's huge, and there's so many people on there. And yet I hear he's always, like you said, so kind with kids.
Yes.
Especially, he's so good with kids.
Yeah. He's just he's kind of another generation of directors, and he does a certain thing that not a lot of directors can do. He's an epic director. Epic. It's like doing Hook, of course, all these epic sets and all this an epic storyline. But even seeing Warhorse, the way he directed certain moments, and you're seeing a grand director. It's like not all directors can be a conductor for a symphony that big.
He made that horse act very
he has
the way he said his lines and the way the eyes looked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he understands.
No, there's like a bravery you have to go, this is the shot. It's going to be this super wide shot of a field and a horse, and let the horse just stand there. I mean, there's certain things that not every director has the guts to go to direct in this way and know how epic something can be. Because it's like, well, when you just go in for a close up and manipulate something like this. So it's just a different kind of directing that I don't think a lot of people can do, or even a studio would give them the ability to go, here's hundreds of millions of dollars. I want you to do this story that everyone knows or something and make something grand happen. That doesn't happen that often.
Well, he's proven himself so many times.
Totally.
Too, yeah.
Totally.
So, you were born with this very, very young sounding voice, and this has transitioned into voice acting work.
Right.
And you've done everything from young men to teenagers to young boys. Is it a strange transition, or do you seem to pick it up pretty easily?
I don't even know. It's I don't. You don't really hear your own voice when you talk. I don't think. So I'm always surprised when I hear it back later on, especially doing voice acting. Yeah, I don't know how my voice. I don't know. So like someone asked me on television something about. They were just saying you sound the same. Like Hook. It's like all of a sudden they're watching Hook and they hear Prince Zuko, right, the whole time. And I go, is it possible that my voice hasn't changed since I was 15? Is that even remotely possible? And like fans are like, yes, it is. Which I'm like, I don't know how that's crazy. I don't know how that happens. I really don't focus a lot on the voice. I mean, if it's maybe a younger character, I'll think younger to a certain degree. But I'm just trying to act, and whether there's a camera in the room or a microphone in the room, I'm just trying to act.
Is there any point where you have to say a line or a phrase where you're like, really, that's what the kids are saying? Okay, or a line you don't understand is just sort of new slang or something?
Yeah, I mean, certain things like when we did Jake Long, the American Dragon, we improv a lot of those lines. Me and the other actress Kitty, but it's like a hip hop kind of show, and I'm like very much of the hip hop generation, so. I was probably using slang like that was from my generation more than their generation, the kids at that time. But we had a good time doing that stuff. Now, I try to stick to the script as much as possible.
When you played Zuko on Avatar, just tell me about that whole experience, because that character in that show to me is amazing. I don't even know where to begin with it.
Yeah.
Just tell me about that whole experience, about the fan, just everything connected to that show. What's your take on it?
Well, the beginning of it is they call me into to Nickelodeon to go meet these producers for the show, right? They give you the script, and the character is like Zuko, and of course my first thought of Zuko was Danny Zuko, and
they're very similar.
Yeah, and I was like, like Danny Zuko, it's so funny. And they were like laughing when I met Mike and Brian the first time. And I'm reading through the script and I'm like, this is obviously some epic Asian-inspired martial arts series for Nickelodeon. And in my mind, I really didn't even think it was going to go. I was like, this is not going to happen.
I think everyone is still amazed at Nickelodeon.
It's amazing.
Just a show like that, because they haven't done any other shows like that apart from Korra.
When you walk in there, when I walked into Nickelodeon that day, I literally was reading this Asian-inspired situation, and you're looking at statues of SpongeBob SquarePants and big portraits of Cat Dog. Remember Cat Dog?
Oh, yeah.
So Cat Dog, and like the building's all white at that time. It has like green slime on top. I mean, it's Nickelodeon. And I'm like, this isn't Nickelodeon. This is something else. This is not Nickelodeon. And I just thought, at face value, I thought it was just going to be the bad guy on the show. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm the bad guy who's chasing the good guy around. All right. And we did that pilot episode, and it kind of got picked up when we started running. And I didn't really think much about it, the first kind of season of it. I just thought I was this bad guy, cool. I didn't see some of the artwork. During the second season, when it started, well, I don't know how it breaks down as far as when it was coming up, but the second season we start seeing the character being more, after the scene with the father where he gets scarred, and you start to really see the character progression and the character arc of the story. I started like really kind of falling in love, like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. This guy's even more than what I expected or what anyone expected. And me and the other cast, Jack DeSena, Mae Whitman, we'd come in like, did you read what happened this week in the script? Like, that kind of stuff started happening for us as we were doing it. So I didn't know even how big it was until it was going on. I was doing the movie Take the Lead in Toronto. with Antonio Banderas, and we're like, and I'm leaving the set every week to shoot episodes, to record episodes while I was in Toronto. And I remember one time I'm leaving the set, and one of the actors, Brandon Andrews, who's like the bigger guy in the movie, and he's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing a cartoon. I gotta run out and do a cartoon for a few hours." He goes, "A cartoon? What cartoon? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's this show for Nickelodeon called Avatar: The Last Airbender." And he was like flipped out. He's like, "What? Well, that's my show." And I like seeing it through his eyes in that moment is when I first started seeing the popularity of the show. And then from there, just the whole arc. By the time it finished, then we started really seeing how popular the show got. And what's weird is we weren't connected as because this is before like Twitter kind of blew up, and I don't even think we had Facebooks at that time, so we didn't really understand how popular the show got. Later on, when I did Korra, where everyone's connected, we know how popular that show is and how fast Korra is going to grow. So it's been an amazing, amazing journey in that way.
You come into this part, you play a teenager, but you play it as someone who's pretty much probably double his age. Do you feel that gives you an advantage on the character, knowing more what this character is going through, seeing how you may have gone through it before?
Yeah,
or...
I could see that. I mean, yeah, of course. There's that. There's a lot of these scenes that Zuko is playing with his father and his uncle that I've got to play those scenes in real life. Because I've been through that age, and also I've got to play those scenes in other television and films. Every actor they say has a certain casting that's their sweet spot. The actors that work a long time, whether they be stars or whatever, they usually play the same characters over and over again. That's like the big trick in Hollywood that a lot of times you don't really understand. If you watch a Harrison Ford film, if you watch a Tom Cruise film, they're actually playing the same character over and over and over again.
Unlike Jeff Goldblum, who has just been so diversified, it's amazing.
Which is crazy.
Look at me, it's like he just becomes somebody else every time.
Right. Which they say someone told me there's the way acting works is you're either gonna play characters closer to yourself, or you're gonna play characters further than yourself, right? Like the character actor or the leading man actor. The leading man actor is gonna play characters closer to themselves, but which one's harder or not? We seem to think that sometimes it's harder to play a character outside of yourself, but for character actors it might be harder for them to play a character that's more like themselves, But the character that I play seems like over and over in my career, at least growing up, was always the kid that was the bad kid turned good and has a heart of gold in the end and somehow is able to redeem himself. And so for many films, I play this character a lot. And like in a lot of ways, Rufio and Prince Zuko are the same character. And so, yeah, so you're able to play these scenes again and again and maybe fine-tune them. I don't know. The director wrote me a note when I did this film, Take the Lead, with Antonio, and I'm the same kind of character. It was like this badass kid who actually becomes a very cool kid at the end. And she's like, "You did some things in the film that made Antonio Banderas changes his performance a few times, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." I mean, I was like, "Thank you for the compliment," but then at the same time, in my mind, I'm like, I've played this character so many times. If I don't know how to play this character by now, then I don't know what I'm doing.
We're talking about Avatar franchise. Gotta ask the question.
Yeah.
You seen the movie?
No.
How is that possible?
I just didn't. I never saw it. Mike and Brian told me not to see it. They're like, "Don't see it."
They came out about it. They said they weren't happy when they finally came out about it.
Yeah, they said they weren't happy. They're like, "Don't watch it, man. It's not." There's nothing. I don't have anything against M. Night Shyamalan. I'm actually a fan of, especially his early films. Sixth Sense is an amazing film. I think Unbroken is my favorite film of his. Unbreakable. Sorry, Unbreakable. Unbreakable is probably my favorite film because I love that twist on the superhero film.
That's actually, I'm one of the few people that I think we share that because I actually do like that film.
I like the film. Like a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, I can see why, but like I'm one of the few that likes the ending as well, like how you like it.
Yeah, I like it because it's a superhero film that is very unsuperhero-y. Mm-hmm. But so I think he's a brilliant director, and I just think it's a misstep. Who knows? It's like if I ever audition for M. Night, it's like I saw something online where he said something bad. It's just hard to make a film. Honestly, it's hard. If it was easy to make a brilliant film, we'd be making more brilliant films as a community, you know. But it's hard. I just think there's probably some things that they say. It's hard for me to talk about because I never saw the film. I just wish, I wish it kind of did better in that sense. Did you see it?
Oh, I think it's like my second most watched review.
Really?
Yeah.
And was it just that bad?
It's
not bad, but not...
it's bad, but at the same time, it's, in my opinion, it's dead on arrival because you can't do a movie on the first season. You can't do it and satisfy anybody, in my opinion.
Right.
So it's not something.
But would it have been good if you didn't know the series?
No. It would
even
still
bad
be
if you didn't know it?
No, but from what I've heard, there's other things, like you said, you were saying you don't know if it's entirely Shyamalan's problem, and also that every film, I always say every film is kind of like a little miracle because they are so difficult and it's so much going into it. And hearing some of the stories going into it about why they had to make certain casting choices and why some of the decisions, I don't entirely blame Shyamalan, but it's a tough project to try and do anyway, and it's kind of destined for failure.
It's pretty hard. I think, I wish they would have used Mike and Brian's input more because those guys hold the Bible to the story, And my biggest, not qualm with the film, but the thing, I wrote a blog when it was coming out because so many people were asking me questions. I found it was like, I don't know, at 2 a.m. in the morning, I wrote something, and then it went
always
viral.
A good time to write
It
something.
probably wasn't the best time to write it because I actually got freaked out the next morning when it kind of went viral, and then all of a sudden, like, Nickelodeon's calling me up, like, what are you writing about? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But my whole thing was basically, and, Mike and Brian agreed with me, was just on the casting, right? So, and not even about me playing Prince Zuko, which would have been great. And I'm actually a fan of Dev Patel, and I'm sure he did a fine job. He's a fine actor. But just with the Aang character, being an ethnic actor in LA and growing up and getting my career launched by being in a movie like Hook, right? There's not a lot of roles for, say, like a young Asian actor. And the fact that you weren't able to cast one in this particular film was a missed opportunity for launching someone's career. And nothing against the kid who played Aang. It's just that there's other roles for Caucasian kids that come out a lot, more often than something this kind of big to really kind of shed light on, maybe give the chance for a new kid to kind of a springboard for his career. We don't know if it could have been the next, the first Asian Will Smith for Hollywood or something like that. And I just thought it was a missed opportunity because I know the power of what the Hollywood machine is if you can kind of give a young kid a shot in that way. And there's not a lot of chances for young Asian roles like that happen.
But let's be honest, the film did so poorly anyway.
Maybe,
probably saved a career.
Right.
Maybe that kid was going to try out and then he went and did something else and that was a big hit or something.
This is true. We don't know that either. I just wrote that during the time, so I just came in from that point of view, But, yeah, it's just so weird. They're like, well, we didn't want to cast this, but we wanted to pronounce the names correctly. I was like, that was the first telltale sign for me.
They couldn't get the names right.
They're like, well, it's not Aang, it's Ong. And we're like, what? It's like doing, when we do, Star Wars and be like, no, it's Luke Skywalker. Like, how does that work?
If there was a low-key Skywalker, if that's in the new Star Wars, that would be amazing. Low-key Skywalker.
Low-key Skywalker.
He has like the big horns and everything.
Yeah.
The long blonde hair turns into the horns. Let's make this happen.
That could be cool.
J.J. Abrams is watching. Let's make that
I'm
happen.
excited. I'm a fan. I've always been a big fan of Star Wars, so I'm excited for the new trilogy to come out.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
I'm curious too.
Dante, how old are you?
39.
Where is this unicorn blood you are drinking to keep this youthful look? And where can we get it, by God? You still look like you're 22 or something.
I don't know. It's got to be all that time I spent in Neverland. It's got to be that, for sure. I don't know what it is. I guess it's L.A. I think everyone kind of... L.A. is like a Neverland place, so people kind of slow down and age over there. No seasons, so it's just an endless temperate summer kind of thing. And lucky, I tell people just luck. I always tell people like overnight I'm gonna go from the Karate Kid to Mr. Miyagi, like overnight. I'm gonna turn around all of a sudden I'm like the old wise man. We'll see when that day comes.
You are known for acting, obviously, for screen acting and voice acting, but I think that's what most people sort of connect you to. But you do a million other things. You're a producer, you're a writer, you do poetry, you put productions together, you do all sorts of stuff. What is a typical week like for you?
Yeah, it's crazier than I think, and I forget. I actually vlogged for my first time like a month straight, like every day, and I was pretty amazed about how much crazy stuff that I do myself. Um, so it's wild. I started a poetry venue about 17, 18 years ago in Los Angeles, and it became the largest open mic venue in the country. So I've been very involved in the spoken word poetry scene for the last 2 decades. So that's always going on. I have a production company in Hawaii called Kinetic Films that does Asian American Pacific Islander films, and we produced 3 films so far. And I co-wrote the 4th film that we're getting funding for right now, and so we're doing in the midst of that. And I wrote a play called Midnight Makeout Session that had a few really good runs that we're gonna do a new run of it soon. I started a collective downtown called We Own the Eighth, which is an Asian American arts collective about collaborating YouTube artists and digital artists with traditional media folks and really trying to create um, an Asian American genre in America as far as media. And the whole concept we came up with is We Own the Eighth, which is co-opting the eighth of the month for new media, new Asian media every month. So we release new media every month and kind of promote for each other. So it's kind of I've been around LA a long time in the industry, and part of being in Hollywood and sticking around so long is keeping yourself uh, creatively active and busy. We can always what kills me is just kind of sitting around waiting for auditions, which is always it's like that's part of the life in LA. I mean, we're constantly auditioning, whether it be on screen, voice stuff, commercial, anything, everything. That's just how the town works. But I've been around so long that you also wanna you're a tool in other people's story as an actor. There comes a time when you're like, I have a few stories that I want to help tell too, whether it be a story that I write or whether it's a story that I find from someone else, and let's get together and create that. And there's no better time than now, digitally, where we can, we all have cameras. All my friends, we all have cameras. We all have lights. We have time, and let's shoot stuff and let's collaborate. And so it's a really, really kind of vibrant time in LA right now. It's really exciting.
You've worked with, as I said before, a lot of screen legends, a lot of huge, huge names. Which one or ones have left the biggest impact on you?
Um, God, I mean, of course, the Hook days. Those guys are all those. I mean, Spielberg, Hoffman, Williams. They're super big just because it's my teenage days and my kind of really big uh, entrance into Hollywood. And Antonio Banderas always it's great. The big stars that you work with, you kind of start to understand why they're stars when you talk to them and when you interact with them. They definitely make you feel like special. It's this weird thing. It's kind of like talking with Antonio. I was telling somebody, you know, you, especially at that time, I always say I'm a pretty hip kind of guy and think I got it going on. Then you meet someone like that, walks in the room, like, who's that guy, right? And then he's talking to you, and like everyone else disappears in the room, and he's telling you anything. I don't know what he's talking about.
And when he leaves the room, he does the big Z. He's like,
yeah, exactly. And you're looking at this guy like, this guy has really pretty eyes. You're like, what's going on? So I mean,
it's the George Clooney effect.
Yeah, exactly.
He will suck you in.
Exactly. It's so many. Every film has its own thing, and has its own. Leaves its own impact on you. It's kind of interesting. I tell folks, a lot of the audience watch films that we've done, whether they be bigger films or independent films or whatnot, and their experiences is through an audience thing. So that's very impactful. But when I look at the films, most of the time, it's really like looking at a photo album of my life, right? So if I'm watching Hook, or if I'm watching But I'm a Cheerleader, I'm looking at like, oh my God, I gotta call that person. Like, God, remember like that time when we were on that set? It's like looking at that. Even looking at Hook, you're going, God, I gotta call Jimmy Matteo up. He just had a kid. I gotta go hang out with him. Or Rashawn, who played Thud Butt. Like, I've been meaning to see one of his magic shows. I gotta go check him out.
Your movies are kind of like everyone else's Facebook. Like, oh yeah, I gotta give him a call.
Yeah,
I gotta talk to him.
It's like your Facebook. Exactly. So when you've been around town as long as I have, which is coming up on 30 years almost, you have a lot of different, photo albums of people that you need to every time it comes up, people you need to kind of reconnect with.
We lost a great
Oh
talent
yeah,
this year. A lot of us didn't know him personally, but he left a big impact on us
yeah,
regardless. And you have worked with him,
right.
of course. What are your memories of Robin Williams?
Um, that he was a very caring and gentle kind of man. It was amazing. I mean, I'll forever be. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but I'll forever be connected to him because of Rufio and Peter Pan and that kind of relationship. And my first memory is that everything that you want Robin Williams to be when you meet him, he delivers in spades. Right? He's the one thing he taught me at that age was that when you're the lead in the film, when you're like the number one on the call sheet, meaning like you're the star of the film, um, you you're responsible somewhat for the morale of the whole set, crew, cast, and everything. And he took that whole cast and crew on his shoulders for months, long days. People don't realize how hard it is to make movies. It's fun to watch, but you don't understand that we're working for 14, 16-hour days. And there's drama and there's madness, and if someone goes into a bad mood or someone's being a diva, it could really spin the whole morale of the set. Like, people don't want to work for people that are jerks. And he's on the set cracking jokes and making sure everyone's having a good time and laughing all day long. And that was beautiful to see, and to work with him, and really the expertise of him as a brilliant, quick-witted, just master. You you felt that every day, every scene. And then on the other side, we talked about poetry. I mean, Dead Poet Society was a really big film for me in my life and why I became a poet. And so we would spend a lot of mornings just talking about all the transcendental poets that he loved from that movie, like Thoreau. But also we talked about Charles Bukowski, who's one of my favorite poets, or would talk about Byron, anything. Like, in different poetry, he would give me all these ideas. And so I really got to spend time with him on that soft spoken side. And then, just him as a person. Like, when I first met him, one of the things is he was like, "What are you?" He's like, "What's your background?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Filipino." And he's like, my wife's half Filipino." And he's really welcoming you into this world. The thing about it is, as an actor or as anyone coming into Hollywood, a lot of times we feel we're on the outside looking in. You're like, this is a big party that, like, I'm not invited to. Even if you get invited to the party, you just feel like, am I supposed to be at this party? You know what I'm saying? Did the invitation go to the wrong person? And and for someone like a big star to kind of welcome you in, and find places to, like a little thing like that meant so much to me. Like, you know what? You're a part of this too. This is not outside of you. That you're a part of this thing. It's a really lovely thing to do, and really a beautiful thing to do that you don't need to do, and it's very cool. So, like, those are my memories and my feelings of him. And for years he would always send me Christmas cards, and so I just have beautiful memories of him like that.
A lot of people don't know this, but you have worked with Fred Savage twice. Once on Wonder Years, which people have seen,
Yes.
and once on The Wizard.
Right.
But they can't see you in The Wizard.
They can't see me because
Where are you hiding?
I got cut out of that movie. A lot of people don't realize, but a lot of actors do a lot of different things that you may get cut out of, and The Wizard was one of them. Actually played Fred Savage's best friend in the film, from his hometown, and we did all the shooting over the summer, and then end up at the final championship game. And I have, like, so many crazy memories with Fred and the whole Savage family and Ben and all them hanging out for the summer. And Jenny Lewis, when we were kids, running around Reno. We shot and were living in the Bally's Casino in Reno. So I have, like, a lot of memories of just being a kid running around there bowling, staying up all night. It's weird when you're a kid in a casino because you kind of, you're safe to go around the casino, and you have per diem. So, but we ended up getting cut out of that film. I ended up getting cut out, me and the other guys that played his best friends. But it's so weird because, I remember running into Ben Savage years ago at a club, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Do you remember me? Like, I'm Fred's little brother." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, Ben, I know you. What's going on?" And we were talking about The Wizard, and just, that was just the funnest time. It's great to be a young actor, and these films you do, you just have these, like, little, friendships that go on. One of my biggest memories from that is watching, there was an old MTV show me and Fred were watching with the other kids, called, I think it was Remote Control, and the girl,
Yeah.
yeah, and we had like the biggest crush on Kari Wurr for some reason. Awesome, she was hot. And then I remember singing Bobby Brown's Every Little Step with Fred Savage, and we're dancing around, like funny things like that. People have their memories of like junior high or like elementary school, and I do too. And a lot of my memories just happen to be with kids like Fred Savage or something like that, because those are the years I was in junior high or elementary school. So so it's funny. Shout out to Fred, the whole Savage family.
Well, he hasn't gone on to anything, just directing every Always
Just
Sunny
directing
in
everything,
Philadelphia
yeah.
episode, and being busy.
He
as
was
hell.
always brilliant. Even back then, he was like smarter than everybody else.
He seemed like a little mutant alien prodigy. Like, he talked like he was 30 years old. It was unbelievable. Like, no kid talked like how he talked in a movie.
Right.
He just seemed like beyond any kid that age in terms of intelligence.
He was definitely. There's a lot of the young actors were really brilliant kids. Charlie Korsmo, who was in Hook, was a brilliant kid, like super smart. You run to all these kids. I mean, Mayan Bialik, when she was on she's brilliant. She was on Blossom, and we did the Earth Day special together. She was brilliant. I saw her recently before she got on Big Bang Theory, and she was like doing brain surgery or something at UCLA.
Actual brain surgery?
Yeah, I'm like, you're actually like a brain doctor. She's like, a neurosurgeon. That's what she said. And I'm like, what? Mom, what are you talking about? Like, I've just been acting this whole time. She was laughing. So there's like a lot. I mean, there's a lot of children actors that become drug addicts and kind of mess up. But there's a lot of us that actually were smart kids that kind of went on to rocket science or brain surgery.
I was gonna say, as you said, so many child stars have gone to this dark place and haven't gotten out, kind of understandably so. It's a weird environment,
yeah,
and you're thrown into something where it's hard to have a normal childhood. You seem to have come out of it okay. Well, why do you think that is? What do you think was the secret to get out?
Yeah, I think it's good family. All my brothers and sisters are actors and artists and still in the industry, and so it just becomes less of a magical thing and more like, this is kind of what we do. But I've seen a lot of I've been around a long time, so I've seen a lot of friends leave the town. I've seen some friends die, whether it be through drugs or just through the mishaps of life and that kind of lifestyle. So I just I think it's really being around good family, and now I'm seeing the next generation. My brother, his kids are acting and they're doing well. My other brother, his like stepson, is coming out in a bunch of films, and he's about to kind of take off, and he's coming out with a new film with Bill Murray, and seeing it happening again to the next generation is kind of like a beautiful kind of thing. But at the same token, like you said, like my family's like a really good family to be around, acting family. So I just hope that everyone kind of keeps their feet on the ground and understands like this is the way it is. And I think the kids, their feet are on the ground pretty well because they see us, acting all the time. We're all like doing commercials or films, and they're visiting the sets. And then if they're around the country shooting, it's like one of us are around there also, like, oh, I'm here doing this. So it just feels like not that's like not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is what we do. We're an entertainment family, and writing, producing, directing, that's what we do. Music, that's what we do, and it's not anything out of the ordinary. What kind of success you get is hopefully you're fortunate to have bigger success, but it's not like wow, the awe. It's not like an awe in it. It's just what we do.
I like to end every interview with two polar opposite questions.
Okay.
The first one being, whether it be professional or personal, what is the toughest thing you've ever had to go through, and how did you get through it?
God, the toughest thing was like I said, everyone in Hollywood has their true Hollywood story, especially if you've been around any period of time. Everyone does. And so of course me and my family do. So we had a really dark kind of period where like we didn't talk for like 7 years, which is crazy because we're a very tight family. But that had to do with a lot of factors in town that had to deal a lot with acting and business. So getting through that was pretty harsh. But I think ironically getting through it is getting back to family, which is great. Yeah, it's just weird. I know it's kind of vague, but part of it is it's just Hollywood. I mean, a lot of things in Hollywood happen, and there's things that happen, especially as kid actors, that ultimately people have to kind of like watch out for, as far as who you put your trust in, who you end up following, and there's a lot of different relationships, whether they be acting teachers, managers, and these things can get convoluted, and that can also disrupt family life also. So just kind of get back to family and get back to what home is. You gotta find that way.
And finally, again, whether professional or personally, what is the proudest thing you've ever done?
Um, you know, recently it was I produced a docu series where I brought my family home to the Philippines, and it's like this really big kind of thing where, for me, it was this idea. It's like really an American story. We're a nation of immigrants, and then just go back to where you're from, whether it be Asia, whether it be Africa or Latin America or Europe, and you kind of really find out. As Americans, we always go, where are we really from though? And uh, outside of Native Americans, we're all from somewhere else. So I brought my whole family back, all my four brothers, my sister, my parents, and as artists, we went back to see where we're from, and it's so weird because my grandfather is from a really small village in the Philippines, right? Rice fields, and that's where he ended up still there. His little sister, he's passed away, but his little sister, who's now in her late 80s, still lives there in a hut. And on these rice fields that we have had for hundreds of years, and to bring my family back and for us to go there and realize that in 2 generations' time, for my grandfather to go from this village to us making movies in Hollywood would be the equivalent of my grandchild walking on the moon or something like that. That's how far the distance is, both economically and physically and just mentally. It's proud. I'm proud to go, wow, this is what we've done and what we've done as a family, and just see where we're going. I'm like very proud of my family at this point in my life, so very, very happy in that sense.
Wonderful. This has been Dante Basco on Shut Up and Talk. Thank you, and take care. Now, this is where we look at each other and we talk, and there's
Yes.
gonna be like,
Oh, yeah,
audio,
yeah.
then we're just gonna say stuff. It's like, but now we're gonna laugh. That thing with the
That's it.
seriously, what unicorn do you suck the blood?
I
out of?
know.
Because I am so insanely jealous.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I'm going to turn into Mr. Miyagi overnight. All of a sudden,
Just overnight, it's gonna turn into that.
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
That's
You're
gonna
just
happen.
gonna keep getting younger and younger.
It-
And when
it-
you do, I will be there to
Right?
steal your
and
unicorn.
I was telling someone we gotta do a movie with I gotta do a movie with Ralph Macchio because he still looks great, and then we'll see.
That's another one who never
Ralph
ages.
Macchio never ages.